Welcome to Nifty Notions from So Very Easy. My name is Laura. Do you like to make hexagons but you don't like the set-in seams? Well, there is a template that will cut out your hexagons and you sew them in rows. And the other thing is, you get to use your jelly rolls. Hexagons make beautiful quilts, but they are a little bit time-consuming sewing all of those edges together, because they're set-in seams or Y seams. But if we were able to take that hexagon and split it in half, it's going to be a lot easier to sew those seams together. You will be sewing the seams together in a long row, and then when you join up the rows, you get your hexagon. And there's a great tool to cut these shapes out of jelly rolls, which are 2.5-inch strips. It is called the Half Hexie Ruler, and it's a great little ruler that fits those 2.5-inch pre-cuts. When you turn it over, you'll notice a channel cut out in the back of the ruler. That little channel is going to help you line up the edges to those jelly rolls. You also have a little bit extra that you're going to be able to hold on to. The template ruler does take a lot of the guesswork out of the cutting. With that little channel in the back, it's just going to nestle right up to the edge of the fabric, and it sort of holds it there. That bottom part is just there so that you can hold on to it. With those pre-cut 2.5-inch strips, you're going to be able to just cut this out. When you cut the first shape out, you're going to end up with an odd shape at the end. These odd shapes are going to be shapes that you're going to be able to square up the quilt with. So be sure to leave a 1/2 inch along the edge, and that way you can reuse these pieces. Once you've cut the one side, you're going to be able to cut the other side, and you have that perfect shape. That ruler will just need to be turned sideways. That channel is going to nestle along the bottom, and you can cut the next piece out. You already have the one edge cut, so you'll only need to do one more cut. You'll be able to just continue to twist this ruler from one side to the other side, going all the way along that strip. From one length of the jelly roll, which is around 44 inches, you're going to get 8 of these pieces, which will give you a total of 4 hexagons. And you're going to have 2 ends that you can use these to square up with. The package that you get the Hexi ruler with does give you a coloring chart, so you can color in and come up with an arrangement for your fabric. It has some great information on how to use this ruler. If you like to make full hexagons that are not pieced in the center, you can still use this ruler. Your fabric will need to be 5 inches, and you're going to cut on the fold. That little channel is going to go on the fold, and when I've finished cutting and I take that ruler off, because that fold was there, it will give me a perfect hexagon. So 2 are going to go together, and then the next 2 will go together. You're going to be able to continually place these together on your design wall or a surface until you get the design that you like. I've matched up my hexagons, but I do have areas that are going to be blank because I want that quilt block to be square. So I'm going to be able to remove some of the pieces in order to keep 2 of those edges straight. These other edges are filled in with those little corners that you trimmed off. They will fit right along the edges. So those little odd pieces will fill in the blanks. Once you have these together, you're going to be able to trim those off after to straighten this up to make it square. Once you have the layout that you like, you're going to separate your rows. So you're going to sew each row. Once the first rows are sewn together, you're going to be able to sew those back together, and they're going to create the hexagon shape that you want. The seams are going to be completely straight as you stitch. Because we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, we need a 1/4 inch dog ear hanging out on one side and a 1/4 inch on the other. We could take time and draw a 1/4 inch seam on each piece so that we match up those corners, or we can make a template. take a piece of paper and draw 2 lines so that they're 1/4 inch apart. So this space is 1/4 inch. We can take this piece of paper now and bring it to the sewing machine. And I do like to put them on these notepads with a sticky side. At the machine, I'm going to want to have 1 line lined up with that needle. The next 1/4 inch line is going towards the bed of the machine. I'm going to take my first piece of fabric, line it up to that outside line. My second piece, I'm going to be able to just fold that over, and I'm going to be able to move that top fabric until I hit that point here and the point down here. Now that that's already been straightened up for me, I can just sew it. I don't need to pin it. Just follow that 1/4 inch edge and stitch. And you're going to see that needle is going to come right off of that intersection. And you're going to be able to just chain piece these, which means you're just going to leave the thread in between the fabric. I'm going to line up my first piece, put my second piece on top, making sure my intersections are working, and just slide it up to the needle and continue sewing. When you've done a whole chain of them, you're going to be able to snip the threads between each layer. When you open up that seam, that edge is going to be straight between all of the layers. Once you have all of your rows stitched together, I would recommend finger pressing. These are bias seams, so they will stretch a little bit more than on a straight cut. Just a little rub with your finger is all you're going to need. Once you have all your rows done, you're going to be able to sew those rows together. And it's really as easy as laying that row together and sew 1/4 inch. Just match up those seams as you go along. And when we open up those rows, we have those perfect hexagons. As each row is stitched together, it's going to make the hexagon in that row. When you attach it to the next row, you're going to make the next set of hexagons. When you get those rows done, you're going to be able to trim off this extra. To trim off this extra, you can trim it off as you do each double row, or you can do it when you have the whole quilt done. Take any measurement and match it along that seam and have 1/4 inch coming out from that point. You're going to be able to see that you have some straight edges on each side. Now you're going to be able to trim that extra off. When you continue to sew your 2s together, this is all going to line up. So you're going to have a straight side and a straight top. The Half Hexie Rulers from a company called Plum Easy Patterns. And they do have lots of patterns that will go along with that template. Traditionally, we have those hexagons matching. There's nothing saying you can't do them all random. It'd be a great way to use up leftover fabric and just let the fabrics fall as they come. So regardless if you want to make a full hexagon or a half hexagon, this definitely makes it very easy. Thank you for joining me today on Nifty Notions. As always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.